looking at here is the Central Market, developed in the, I think, the 20s or the 30s, when they first had independence, which would be 1917 or 19, something like that. And these huge Central Market buildings have an interesting history. During World War I, Germany had built huge Zeppelin hangars at a nearby air base. In 1923, after the war, Riga's city council broke after World War I, needed to build a new Central Market complex. They chose to economize by using only the top structures of the Zeppelin hangars on a new stone and reinforced concrete base. Construction finished in autumn 1930. What you see now is the result. Now, from this vantage point, you get a somewhat of a sense of the scope, the physical size of these four large buildings. One of them is, each of them is for a specific function: fruit, vegetables, probably miscellaneous, and this one, the fish house. For most Americans, this is where you're going to gag. And much of what we see here is not from this area, but in fact comes from Spain and Italy, etc., Greece, until their summer here kicks in sometime in June, and then we'll start to see their produce. Now, in a few hours, this whole area should be packed with vendors. Only 6:40, so it's possible we're not going to get in here until it looks like 7:30. So what I'll do is continue a walk and come back here in an hour or two. To orientate you, this morning we're going to be gravitating around this area and off to our right, and ultimately to that large building that you see. The market is primarily flowers in the center, but along the edge you can see that it's the beginnings of the fresh produce, and it is fresh. So now we'll go to the main river, the Dagawa, I think it's called, or something similar to that, and explore this area a bit. You'll notice, looking at these buildings, they look rather utilitarian, and that's because they are 19th century warehouses that were perched on the edge of the then river perimeters. Now they're pretty much abandoned to redevelopment. So after the huge market was developed and became successful and viable, these warehouses fell into total disrepair. Somewhat recently, it was decided, rather than let them just collapse of their own weight, I suppose, they decided to restore these and use them primarily as an art center. However, a problem occurred. This sign, for example, suggests that that's exactly what was achieved. This is the Spikaroo Concert Hall. It was also imagined that these somewhat restored warehouses, you can see the surface has been cleaned well, would provide low income or low rental cost for artists who, of course, don't have any money in the main. The problem is, it became popular for regular businesses, competition ensued, and now it's far too expensive for anything artsy and creative unless it's backed by the government or some wealthy private patron. And so this is now turning out to be not for the use it was intended. Nevertheless, they will remain and flourish in some form, and for the tourist and for the historian, that's a good thing. Here we have a sweeping view of this river, which name is apparently a lot of big water. That's the TV tower. It used to be the tallest in Europe. Now it's been replaced by Berlin's, which they raised a few inches higher. So these folks are working on raising theirs a few inches higher, and the games continue. Now we're looking back towards the other side, but the more central part of Riga, and a little bit of a sweep of these buildings, which by their mere size and brick character add a real sense of purpose So buildings that have been restored now are being used by lawyers and companies and accountants and so forth. But buildings like this have still been stabilized, as we can see from some of what's going on right there. And they also will have their turn at the game. Actually, stellar about this evolving concept is that it provides an evolving city with built-in space for business. This area, this square for lack of a better term, or plaza, is used for all kinds of outdoor events, sales, flea markets, etc. One thing in Europe, the plant waterer. And in the spirit of this area, a collection of various bird houses. Whether the birds are impressed or not, I don't know. Looking at this older building, as I am so wont to do, you can see that once upon a time there was a companion building built against that face and towards us that held a stairway that went up along that common wall. My guess is this implies a shop or some kind of business that deals with food. And notice this center portion of this building with those large two doorways and those railroad ties sticking out. My bet was that that was some kind of a platform, and that was how they got storage up into those upper floors. And notice that large hook, probably for holding some kind of pulley that again serves the function of raising stuff into that upper floor easily.